Jeffrey, welcome. Why don't you please start off by telling everyone a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Okay, sure. So I'm Geoffrey Cox. Work-wise, I started Southern Healthcare in 2001, acquired the old rectory in Exeter in that year. Then Parkwood House in Plymouth in 2003, the Seaton in a village called Seaton, East Devon in 2004, and Sefton Hall in 2005. So it's been a kind of 24-year journey, if you like, and it hasn't always been easy and it hasn't always gone great. So if there's anything we get right, I'm just going to, say, I think if you make as many mistakes as I have done, you've got to have learned something over the years. So I hope there's been a lot of learning. Some of it's not come easy. So yeah, so I'm still very much running the four homes with my wife Margot, and we've got four great managers and
Mm.
25 great nurses and 250 staff in altogether. And yeah, I'd say that we're all share a passion. We're all very full on, very hands on, love what we do. And I think that's pretty much universal across Southern Healthcare, I'd say.
Fabulous. Now, as you mentioned from the top, you've got 3 out of 4 outstanding ratings. Obviously, you have to have a great care team to deliver that. So, tell me a
Absolutely.
little bit more about. We're going to come to your mistakes. I love to hear about mistakes and what's coming to those because we all learn from them. It's how we get better, right? So, tell me about after 2001, 2005. That's 24 years, as you say. What you kind of learned on building. For those who are listening, yeah, the top things you would say that if you want to build a great care team, these are some of the things you should be attending to.
Well, I think the number one has got to be the team. And I think that people say things, the team are your greatest asset, your employees. Sometimes people say that quite glibly and straight away, but I think we have to dig deep on that one. And to extend what I mean by saying that, to give it real kind of juice, if you like, I see my role as MD. My job is to serve the team, to serve my managers, to be of service, to be of support, to encourage an environment where we're not only learning, thriving, doing well, but my job is to notice what people do, appreciate that, celebrate that. And if we can share our vision on what we're trying to achieve, then people tend to take on our collective corporate aims and goals as their aims and goals if it makes them feel great. So I've got to work out what that is, what makes people feel great, what is it I'm looking for, can we merge those things? Is there a way of merging them? Because I believe that it's possible. I believe we have a team of people who are working really hard to achieve our aims and objectives, but that's not because of me, or they don't do it for me, they do it for themselves. So I think going back to that point I made earlier about my job being one of service and our managers being of service to the team, it's not just something I just got to say glibly. I say we take that notion incredibly seriously, being of service. And, it wasn't always thus, but these days we have a very passionate, committed, loyal team who I think thrive on things like appreciation, recognition, support. So as long as I'm good, if I think we can be good at those things, myself, my wife, our team of managers as an organization, I think it makes our life a lot easier. And it
Mm.
helps us to achieve and fulfill on compliance and occupancy and reputation and hopefully not having too many mistakes or things go wrong. Not having too many levers, not having agency, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and tell me, back in 2001 when you started, were those principles, I mean, those are largely principles, I feel, and values that you've just articulated, were they in place, do you feel, in the early days, or is that something that you've learnt and acknowledged over time?
And they absolutely weren't. And I think there was a double problem. Not only were those aims, objectives, values in place already, I think there was also a bigger problem, which was that, and it wasn't great. The bigger problem was that people thought it really was great. And I'm curious that, I didn't know a lot about social care when I started in 2001. I was a lawyer before. I've done that for 25 years in the end. Altogether, I had a legal practice for another 5 years before
All right.
our partners, we sold our practice, but I moved to Devon from Bournemouth. But people really thought they were very, very, very good. And I kind of thought that was what I inherited and was encouraged to accept. But I guess I also had a kind of deep-seated ambition that I'm sure we can innovate and be better and grow. But I didn't realize, and it's come back to the mistakes point, if you like, I didn't realize at the beginning how difficult it was to change the culture from one that, kind of we know everything, we're really good, everyone rates us as being really good, you can't tell me anything. In order to shift that to one that I think we have today, which is, we might be quite good, but you know what, we're still not good enough. We're still learning. We've still got more to learn, and everything really matters. And to get that kind of sense of mission, purpose, urgency without it being a kind of a big onerous task, but something that's quite natural. That took a long time, and that we made a lot of full starts along the way, shall we say?
So tell me a little bit more about that. I'm curious.
I mean, when I started, it was the days of CQ, not CQC, it was obviously NCSC, NCSI, NCSC, I think it was, if I
Mm,
remember correctly, in 2000, 2001, and that soon became CSCI. And, there was a phase in the early noughties when the regulators were quite keen to pick holes in people. And we got the emergence of the safeguarding movement. So you got lots more people looking and criticizing. It perhaps wasn't as easy as it used to be. So there was a kind of a light being shone on to care. Maybe, I'm sure it was a good thing. And it's progressed as a result. So that is a good thing. But we didn't have an easy time with our regulators at one time. And we started off with quite good reports, but they got more and more disappointing over time. And you thought, gosh, we're struggling with fees, we're struggling with occupancy, we're struggling with coping with the wage costs. Yet the guys are coming around and we're going flat out, but the guys are coming around to regulators are saying we should be doing better, we should have more staff, we should be doing more this, that, the other. And I'm thinking, crikey, that was a kind of new age that the social care moved into. I don't think we found that easy. I don't think a lot of people have found it easy, frankly. And I think you can't do that and be successful on a team that is, shall we say, average or relying on agency. A lot of people like a lot of lack of experience, or conversely, people being around for a long time, but they know it all, and you can't tell them anything. We
mm,
just need to we need to be more open-minded to learning, to progressing, taking on new ideas, new programs, new initiatives, and rolling things out.
mm. And yeah, and how did you try and instill that when perhaps it wasn't quite at a place where you wanted it to be?
Well, one of the first things I did was ring up a friend of mine who ran a company that used to run care homes on behalf of people who owned them, who didn't really want to run them. And I rang him and said, "Do you know what? I'm not sure I've got all the answers here. And do you think you would help me? How do you feel about you looking at taking one of my homes and running it, and I'll concentrate on the others," or something like that? And he said, "My advice is stick at it. It'll take longer than you think, and you'll do better than we could ever do for you because you're vested personally in it. And it's just you've got to be more persistent as well as patient." So I guess I took his advice.
Mm,
And I think there came a time in the late early 2000s when I decided that the people we had got me engaged in doing training weren't actually very good. And I didn't really know anything about training,
mm,
but I had a belief, rightly or wrongly, that there was a better way forward if we could work on that collaboratively, collectively, share that with the team rather than have people look like they're preaching to people as if they're all kind of stupid. That seemed to be the kind of the kind of people we had doing training years ago. So myself and my wife, we started doing it ourselves, really. And I have to say, in the early days, it was incredibly difficult, probably not as successful as it is today.
you've been
But we persisted.
doing the training yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we had to learn a new skill of how to take ideas and how to learn about training to make those ideas work and to get people to buy in to what you're trying to do. So that
Mm,
took us a little while to work out.
mm,
But I think it was, so it was a lot of looking, learning, and searching and asking questions and getting different answers before we probably over a period of time have built up an armory of different clever people who'd get given advice. A lot of it's free on YouTube, to be honest with you. I wouldn't say, but stuff like the work of Carl Rogers and, Tom Kitwood, David Sheard, Bill Thomas, and there's a whole raft of names I could probably reel off if I had more time to say these are all guys that put stuff out there you can buy in, or you can get a lot of stuff free. But
mm.
if you take what they're saying seriously and try to apply it and you persist, it will happen.
Yeah.
provided you've got a very supportive approach to people.
And did you have to lose some key members of your team along the way to make this change, or tell me
Well,
more about it?
the four managers we've got now, we've had a pretty long time.
Yeah.
And I think that the one thing prior to that years ago, going back, say, 10, 15 years, I felt we were getting through a lot of managers and it wasn't working
Mm.
out.
Mm.
And I think part of the reason for that is that in social care, there's probably a short supply of really good managers, and probably in truth, looking back at myself, there's probably a short supply of really good owners too.
Mm.
I'm not convinced that we were getting the best out of the managers we had at one time.
Right.
I think it came with an expectation. You've got a manager role, manager ticket. There you are, off you go. You know what you're doing,
All
and
right.
let it
Yeah.
all happen. I don't
Yeah.
think it worked like that. I think that
Yeah.
today it's a function of partnership between ownership,
Mm.
managers, team residents, families, healthcare professionals, wider community, academic research, learning, training, a multiplicity of partnerships that have all got to be working well.
Yeah, I see. Okay. And so that gives us a nice little oversight into what you encountered, how you you move forwards. I'm curious to know these, let's say, values that you mentioned right at the very beginning, to be of service, to be an encourager, to notice and celebrate. And tell me how in practice that kind of shows itself. Give us some insights into that.
Well, I go back to the COVID period, if you like.
Hmm.
That was a time when most people like me, I'm sure, were pretty apprehensive, pretty nervous. The government was a bit all over the place about, PP, how serious COVID was, what was
Hmm.
going to happen. First bit of guidance said that it's unlikely people in care homes are going to get COVID, my wife and I both thought that was complete nonsense. And so we kind of rather disregarded that. But so there we were in this very worrying situation. There was a
Hmm.
story, you've seen Italy, stories of a care home in Spain where the whole team walked out and left the residents in an empty,
Hmm.
unattended building and they got COVID. And it was quite frightening to think, oh my God, is that what people are going to do? I mean, God, what I did actually observe was the complete opposite. I always thought a lot of our team, and I think we've been working on taking care of people. But what I did observe was a level of commitment that even I had perhaps underestimated. It
Hmm.
was, I mean, for example, take one home. We had a lady went to hospital, came back with COVID. Is it very early days before testing, before PPE? Couldn't get PPE for love of the money, and one of the worst things that could happen happened. Somebody came back into our home from hospital, overnight stay, brought back COVID, and suddenly a lot of people were coughing,
Hmm.
not feeling very well. So 36 residents, 25 were tested to have COVID.
Hmm.
48 staff, 29 had COVID. And
Hmm.
that meant we had 19 left to look after a lot of people and a lot of poorly people at that, and nowhere to turn. And I thought, oh my God, that's gonna be a bit of a challenge for us. That's gonna
Hmm.
test. And do you know what? Those 19 people worked their absolute socks off, irrespective of the fact there was COVID in the building. They were fearful. I couldn't do much. I was already isolating myself. And they kind of saw that home through this, and the level of commitment, dedication, service, selflessness was something that I will never ever forget. And it kind of maybe caused me to notch up this service orientation a few levels and really work to that, I guess, ever since. And I think that has enabled us to cement a lot of the good work we've done and make our team and team ethos and relationships stronger.
And well, that's a very strong story to hear. I mean, I've been hearing back in the days of COVID, yeah, amazing, really, how in that case your team kind of stepped up. But I
They did.
I can only imagine that they stepped up because they were in a position of a mixture, I guess, of courage, of sense of duty, of sense of responsibility to essentially dig in. But that had to have come from somewhere. I mean, you had a team instead of 19 left. So I guess, some degree of we feel we can take this on, had come from somewhere. So I guess that is perhaps a reflection of the culture that was already in place. So, because I'm not you gave the example of how it wasn't the care home that happened to be in Spain, so that's a strong comparison. So I guess probably what I'm asking here is, do you think that they stepped up in that way, kind of when you say when you were isolating, so you weren't exactly on the floor helping them out at that time, a sense of loyalty, which was staggering. So I guess again that didn't come from had to have come from somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think it was loyalty to me or the home. I think it's actually because we managed to foster an environment where looking after people is an honor, it's a privilege, it's
Mm,
a pleasure. And if you can do good by people and see them smile and you can be loving in your way with them, maybe, 20 years ago, you used the love word in a care setting and CQ say, oh, we can't use that word. We don't do that kind of stuff.
mm,
It's all too familiar and can't have that. We've got to keep our distance. So we've probably gone the other way. And I think that what that brings is not loyalty to me, but it is actually much more of a sense of mission, purpose that I'm doing
mm,
something that is really worthwhile and I've got
mm,
people I'm responsible for and it's important to me to do the best for them because I'm selfless, I'm
mm,
giving. I got
mm.
a sense of purpose that's way more important than just myself.
Yeah.
And I think that what we had in the past was a kind of rather slightly more introspective vision. People were more concerned about themselves. What's in it for
Mm,
me? What am I
mm,
getting? Why can't I get more? I don't like this, that, and the other. And I kind of, if you take that away, the opposite of that is this kind of selfless. And actually, this is kind of, I think all I can do at best is try to create the environment by being really careful, nipping and tuck here and there to create an environment where people flourish. And
mm.
they flourish for their own reasons, not my reasons. Hopefully, they merge.
Yeah.
And I think that commitment to the people they're serving was, I always knew it was strong, but it was never, I didn't have any ideas as strong as it was.
Mm, mm. And tell me about your managers, the hiring, how you find them, how you coach them. You say they've been with you for, a considerable period. So tell me a little bit more because it's such an important hire. And as you say, it can be a struggle to find those who are considered to be good managers. Tell me a little more about how you hire, how you maybe coach, the kind of attributes you're looking for.
Well, sort of two things. I'll go through the managers. But the first thing to say is that perhaps in the past, I had underestimated how critical the role of an owner or a director or a board is to actually nurture, develop, support, appreciate people.
Right.
And I don't think that we got the best out of people in years gone by. We expected a lot. And I think we had to learn to take more responsibility how we are with people, how we develop, encourage them. So taking that on a bit, going back to our first, the manager who's been with us, Lorna, she started in the home long before I had it in 1992. I've forgotten how many years ago that is. It's 43, I think. So she's been there a long time and she came out of school. She became a carer, senior carer. Then she became a sort of head carer for a long time. We went through various managers, and to be honest, we hadn't been overly successful with managers. And we looked at Lorna and said, "You kind of know what we're trying to achieve. I know you're a good egg. Would you fancy trying the role of manager?" And I know sometimes promoting from within can be a big mistake. We expect too much and they fail. And she said to me, God, and I'm surprised for asking me, I'm not sure if I could do this. And then she contacted me on the Monday and said, you know what, I've been thinking about what you said, and if I don't take the chance, I'll kick myself for having not taken the opportunity. So I'm going to give it a go. But I need every support you can give me. And I don't think she found it easy, but the one thing I do know, because she emailed me just a few days ago, to say thank you for the support you always give. So I think it's a partnership and that's worked well. Then another of our managers, she started with us in 2004 as a deputy. She went off elsewhere in 2007 and she came back in 2010 as a manager. And here we are. And she said, and then I think it was 2012. She said, I think I'm done with social care. It's just burning me out. And she went out to work in the community as a nurse and came back 6 months later. Said, I can't stand it. I'm missing what I'm doing. But I'll give it another year, and then I'll find something else to do. But that was like 13 years ago, and she, so she. I think that we've got a good partnership as an employer-employee team support, appreciation. What's the mission we're on? That takes me another manager. Another of our managers, probably one of the most successful we've ever had. She was our first Romanian carer in 2007, the first time we'd ever recruited Romania. And when she came to England in 2007, her English was not very good. If someone said to me then, this young lady is going to become one of your most outstanding managers, I'd say, really? How did you work that out? Because
Mm,
her communication skills weren't great. She struggled with English. She didn't feel at home in England. She felt very homesick, and she come from the eastern part of Romania, which is very kind of Russian in its aspiration, if you like. And my goodness, we've been on a journey. And we when we do training, we say, well, who really? What do you do? Where do you work? What do you love about what you do? Who really inspires you? And we get people like Mother Teresa, or big pop stars, or big famous people. And so a lot of her staff say, well, actually, the manager inspires me. And I thought, if you've got a manager who
mm,
is inspiring their team and they are a source of inspiration, then
mm.
I think you have a very special manager.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah. And in terms of, I mean, I asked you when you hire, but you've kind of, yeah, you've encouraged people to come up from within, so that's great. You know, so there's such strong stories. And in terms of your personally, and maybe Margot's personal role about how you get involved or how you don't get involved. Tell me a little bit more about that. Your actual role. Yeah, how often you visit, who you speak to, how often you kind of have meetings, what kind of meetings those are. Tell
Yeah.
me a little bit more about that.
Well, I guess in my early days, I did what any MD would do. I'd have an office, I'd have a
Mm,
PA, I'd study accounts, I'd look at issues or complaints, look at the last inspection report, worry about numbers and occupancy and finance. And I still obviously do that to some extent, but I don't really. Well, I do have an office at home now because we built an office at home. But I was more interfering, into meddling, need to know everything. And today,
mm,
I'd say it's almost the complete opposite. In a way, through technology, I know more that's going on than because we've got lots of digital systems. I can see anything if I want
mm,
to.
mm,
I don't tend to, and I don't have to, because one of the things I've learned to do years ago, when there was a problem in a previous generation of managers, they would upwardly delegate the problem to me. So I was always had to be the solution to everybody's problems.
yeah, I don't want to do
Today I say you don't ring me with a problem. You ring me just to tell me what the problem had been before you found a solution, what the solution was. That's what I want to know. And I say, look, the buck stops here. If you don't want me to interfere with your every decision and thinking, but if you want that autonomy from me, the responsibility of the home stays in these four walls with you. So we have a very different relationship, and they're very responsible, very accountable, and I don't have to worry that much. So therefore, in terms of your question, what do I do?
mm,
I think about what next?
mm,
What else? What do we need to learn next? What is it we're not as good at that I'd like us to be good? Or where do we need to get better? Or which way is the market going?
mm,
I mean, for example, 15 years ago, we didn't really do much dementia because nurses, historically trained in NHS, didn't really think much about dementia. They were very
mm,
juiced up by, illness and treatment and medication and wounds and doing all those busy things that nurses do. Dementia, well, I don't think in the UK we'd had a very great track record of how we supported people with dementia. And I saw that Jerry Robinson program in 2009, which exposed how bad they were.
mm,
And I thought, that's really embarrassing. And we don't do much dementia either. Well, perhaps we could carve out a niche in being very good at dementia, specialized in dementia within a nursing care environment. I can't,
mm,
you don't either have dementia or you get ill. It's not binary. You can probably get
mm,
ill and have dementia. So why
mm,
don't we move into that area and try and be good at both?
mm.
And so that became our specialism. I
Right.
didn't know that actually we would end up with all the skills we've developed and worked with, and lots of other bright people have given us ideas, not mine, to how to support people with dementia really well. We built up a track record of supporting people with very advanced dementia, probably behaviors that might challenge, that other homes or have tended not to be able to cope with. And the more we've worked with that, I would say the better we become, and the more we are now having residents that other people don't want. And to be honest, the truth is, if
Mm.
you have the support infrastructure and the training and the skills, and you know what you're trying to do, those people are no more complex than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so we also moved into mental health.
Mm.
And that at one time we got somebody say, oh, they've been sectioned, they got a psychiatric diagnosis of XYZ, and it sounded a bit scary. So shall we try this? Do you think we can? I think we can. Let's have a go. So we did, and I had a conversation with one of my managers a few weeks later. Said, you know what? This person is way less complicated than most of the people already admitting into our homes with dementia, but they
Mm.
have a mental health label.
Mm.
And you know what? There's a lot of similarities in supporting people with a mental health psychiatric diagnosis
Mm.
as opposed to advanced dementia. And a lot of the interpersonal subtleties and skills are universally helpful.
I see. Yeah, very interesting. And as you say, that decision to switch to really want to specialize in dementia, as a way to both, improve and learn and be better, I think is very strong. So how often do you visit the homes yourself?
One thing is for definite. I have you may or may not know I have a band. I play drums in the band, and
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
some top musicians. Our pianist is he was voted the top keyboard player in the UK in 2010, and he happens to live in Exeter, which is our great fortune, Craig Milverton, and he's not too proud to play in care homes, and we play every 2 weeks.
All
We
right.
play in homes every 2 weeks. So on a Friday in the morning, we're in one home, in the afternoon, another home, and then 2 weeks later, we do the other two. And so we rotate that. That keeps going right through the year. So that's for definite. I regard the other Friday as my other day off that I
Yeah,
can actually go in the homes and be nice.
yeah,
And then it's really around things that are specific. I've learned that when I am not present and supporting managers, or me and or my wife, they feel a bit abandoned.
right. Yeah,
So I try to be a bit, I don't always get it right, but I try
yeah,
to be a bit proactive and say, I'm here. I haven't come because I need to ask you about X, Y, Z. I'm just here because I want to know what you need of me.
yeah, yeah.
What's worrying you? What are the issues that I don't already you haven't already asked me about, or you are on
Mm,
your mind? What
mm,
can I do to help? And so those meetings are informal. I would like if I said they happen once a week in every home, that would be not true because I don't. It doesn't happen as
yeah,
often as that.
yeah.
We have a structured online meeting every Thursday. It's
Right.
about an hour and a half.
Is that
We
with
have
you and the managers or with you?
yes, myself, Margot, my PA, and the four managers.
Yeah.
We have a weekly reporting system whereby they kind of review the week and what do I need to know, and what are they doing about it.
Well, how
So
do how does that work? Do they report, is that like on how do they report back just on a I'm literally
it's like a spreadsheet.
I like a spreadsheet,
It's
right?
like what's happened, what am I doing about
Yeah,
it, what's the
summary,
next
right,
actions. It's like
right.
an appendage to the action plan. It's always
Okay.
rolling. You do that every Friday.
Yeah, I see.
We have a monthly system of they have to file, what's changed, in terms of the team or the resident profile or et cetera, et cetera. So by Monday afternoon, I get a very full dashboard of I can tell you by 2 o'clock on a Monday
Mm,
what is our overall occupancy overall, what
mm,
is the occupancy in each home,
yeah.
what's the split between residential nursing, dementia, mental health. I can tell you what the average fee is in half a dozen different categories, and I can multiply that by a year to say what I think,
Mm,
whether our turnover is on track to what I hoped or not.
right.
Is it going up? Is it going down? So there's lots of reports. So I'm pretty in the know, and so I tend to have Monday as a bit of an office day. Tuesday is usually a training day because we're always doing training on a Tuesday, and we usually do that probably about 40 weeks in the year.
Oh, really?
We,
That's a lot of week. So that training day is how does that work?
so basically, we have two or three external audits. We have a guy who's a care consultant who looks at compliance, CQC, what have you. We do the Eden Alternative Training Program, and there's an external visit to the homes from somebody who's an occupational psychologist who's been in the sector about 40 years. And we do training with David Shear's Butterfly Project and a company called Meaningful Care Matters. They also come in and do an audit in July, and they write a kind of 100-page report. The Eden reports are about 35. The Meaningful Care Matter reports are about 100 pages, and they tell you
Oh,
what's great,
100
what's
pages.
not so
That's a
great.
long one.
It's huge. and they're not always totally complimentary. They're actually designed to say what else you need to do.
Right. I see.
They're not there to flatter us.
Yeah.
And so what we usually get that in August, and by September we develop a training program that's designed to pick up on all the things they recommend we should be doing better.
Right.
And we usually start that in September.
Mm.
We do it at groups of 20, well, maybe 15. Groups, it varies from 15 to 10 to 20. 20. Yeah, it varies depending on who's available, who's not.
Yeah.
We start those in October or middle of September. We don't do that in December because give people a break. We're thinking more jolly. We start again mid-January. We go through to Easter. And hopefully we've gone through the workforce about all the things that we've been recommended to take forward
And,
from the last year's
yeah,
audit.
I see. Are these in-person training
Yeah,
or
in person, very
yeah,
much in person. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I see. And sorry, do you run those?
I do with
Yeah.
Margot. Yes, we do that ourselves.
Right, I see.
So
Yeah.
I think one of the
That's quite a hands-on role, isn't it? Doing that.
yeah, it is. And
Mm.
we produce a workbook of all the things we're going to talk about. They
Mm.
can take home. If they're new to us, they can actually have a kind of this is about us, what we're trying to do, this is where we are on this program, this is what's good, this is
Mm.
what it said, this is what the recommendations are, these are the main topics we're working on. And I think that we also use the opportunities to every week to do two questionnaires. One is up front. We have a feedback. So, what's your experience of working for us? How did you feel when you joined us? Where do you feel you were supported? Do you feel appreciated? Can you raise concerns? Do you understand what we're trying to achieve? And do you feel you can? Do you know who to go to if you have something you want to talk about? And we score that and we look at that to see if there's any concerns anybody's ever had. Some people do. There's always somebody somewhere who's got something, and we have conversations about it. And then we also do a longer questionnaire about the training stuff. How did you find the day? Was it the right pace? Did you understand the material? Did it motivate you? Did you get enthused by it? Did you enjoy it? What's your feedback? What would you like us to do more of or less of?
Mm. Mm.
And people write stuff, and we usually get I'm not sure it's always been as complimentary, but
Yeah.
because we keep working on it, we tend to get a lot of complimentary feedback. And I think probably the critical thing for me is that people really do genuinely feel part of what it is we're trying to do.
Mm. Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds it's great, and that process of the training and how you encourage people to get involved. Sorry, Jeffrey, I'm just making sure my battery's running low a bit on my Mac, so I'm just making sure everything's plugged in. It seems to be, but it's still not charging. Nevertheless, well, this has been great, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for sharing it. Now, is there anything maybe that you've not touched on that you feel you should add?
Yes, I guess what my current thinking is, and
Mm.
as we all know, the operating environment is no less difficult than it ever was, probably more difficult. The
Yeah,
economic circumstances are probably more challenging.
yeah.
I would say the one thing I haven't said that I think is one of our driving commitments that I think has been very powerful for us, because people do moan about what we charge and fees, things like that.
Mm.
I actually believe that if we hope to survive, we must aim, number one, we must aim to be the best. And number two, we have to aim to deliver better value for money than anybody else.
Mm.
And therefore, what that means for me is we're constantly looking at what is our offering of your mother, your father, your loved one, whoever comes into our homes. What is our offering compared to whatever else is out
Mm.
there?
Mm.
We're not new buildings. We're not built like Hilton hotels. We haven't got marble and chandeliers and stuff like that. We're all converted buildings, mainly Georgian, some of them bigger than others. I mean, they're pretty smart, but they're not modern. It's absolutely the opposite of purpose built. So no,
Yeah,
they're not convenient, and they do not look like care homes or hospitals.
yeah,
They do look a bit like home.
yeah.
They feel like home. And I think that we're still working on that and always will be. And I think I'll probably know we're a bit closer to that when I see staff walking around in slippers because they're tippy-toeing around as opposed to, marching around where these folks are living in their workplace. I mean, the notion of we are working in people's own homes is a hard one to get to deliver on. That's why I make the metaphor of slippers.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
a trolley comes clattering around. I think, that is completely just destroyed
Mm.
everything we've been so carefully crafting over years. And the
Yeah.
trolley comes in with squeaky wheels and clattering in the corridor. Do
Mm.
you realize how that one thing has single-handedly destroyed the ambience we've created?
Mm.
Do you see
Mm.
that?
Mm.
And so I guess that we take that kind of life in a care home can be great fun. And when I say when I hear people say things like, you don't want to end up in a care home or put your mum or put your dad in a care home, I cringe and I think, do you know what if instead of whinging about care homes, we actually built a whole raft of them that were the best place to live, more like a Butlins holiday camp than a care home, where people are actually fulfilled, they're thriving, notwithstanding age, infirmity, conditions, what have you, dementia, whatever else it might be. We take all that away and we focus on quality of life, quality of interaction, as well as quality of care. And we put the focus on people's enjoyment of life. And why not actually try our best to make it the best chapter of a person's life,
Mm.
even if it's a later stage of life? And
Mm.
I think that aspiration helps enable us to have a lot of fun.
Mm.
And
Mm.
people do say some amazing stuff. And long may that continue.
Well, I think that's a perfect end to this episode. So, Geoffrey, thank you very much for being on the KSEO Success Stories podcast.
My pleasure.